And plasma energy water is definitely one of the best. It gives you such a great value, and it really does, have a long list of success stories as well, many of which that we've gotten through, our time working with you. And I know you've got some exciting stuff to talk about today as well. So, welcome back to the podcast, and
Thank
let's
you.
get started.
Okay. Well, and I just to make a point, yesterday was a busy day trying to fulfill someone who was going to be doing a workshop in Nigeria with plasma energy and needed to get some things right away. And just to give you a heads up, when I saw what was going on with all that, they had asked for mosquito relief, and I sent them, in addition to that, peace and new tech frequency relief, because we have found in certain areas of this country where there are modified mosquitoes, genetically modified, that combination is necessary for addressing what used to just be mosquito relief that worked fine on regular mosquitoes. So the other thing I sent her, because she had asked for Parasite, is I sent her the newest thing that was Parasite Buster Plus. And I'll talk about that a little more in a bit, um, because it adds some very interesting ingredients, energies. But Sean, I also wanted to share with you, I have a woman from, she's in the United States, but she was originally from Lithuania and was looking at all the Russian information on plasma energy and happened to find our plasma energy website and ordered some things from me and has been sharing successes that she is having both herself and with others. And so before I get too deep into that, uh, would you like to just give your overview of the plasma energy? And I will tell people this is a GANs of copper oxide and CO2. And as I stir it all up, you see that powder that goes throughout the water, but it will settle back down. And that's what energizes the water. And it's the gas in the atomic nanosolid state. So that one hasn't been shaken for a while, so it's a little chunky. The first one was CO2 and copper oxide, and this is zinc and hemoglobin energies. So I just thought I'd show a couple of those. And go ahead, Sean, because you mentioned you would kind of give your overview.
Yeah, and so basically, you can see here that we've got a wide variety, thanks to you, Lynn, and your kindness, of the vials. And so basically, what happens is that the water gets charged with that plasma energy. You use the GANs to basically create the process where the energy is basically put into the water, and then you add those additional frequency sets so that you can really target very specific frequencies and very specific things. And then once it's put into these little vials, we get the vials, and then that just goes on the side of a water container that's clear plastic or glass preferred. And so here we've got those 5 gallon jugs that we use for the water dispensers. And fortunately, in our area, they are glass. So we tape these along the side. And within about 8 hours, this little vial has charged all the water in that 5 gallon jug. And so now the water in that jug has all the energy and the frequencies that are in the little vial. And so this is really a great product. And over the years, Lynn, I think we've probably got like 10 or 12 different ones now. I mean, it's Clear Mind, Clear Mouth, Superman. I know we've sold a lot of Superwoman. The pets one, there's stuff for the pets. The Parasite Cleanse is a very popular one. But basically, you can go and purchase these, and then they've got those energies, and this thing will last the rest of your adult life. So you basically buy the vial, it'll charge water the rest of your life. And Lynn, as Dr. Paul used to say, it's the product that you can pass on and give to others, right? So
Exactly. And
once
you
you
know,
charge
Sean,
it.
when you are showing the vials, I'm glad you happened to pick that up because I was going to mention that. this is the time of year that it starts freezing. I'm in Montana. And so I don't send the glass vials, and these are the vials that will be sent out because we don't want you to get a package with broken glass. And that will happen when the glass vials get too cold and freeze. So when you set your water up, and I'm just showing something here. This is peace, and you can see the little glass vial in the bottom, and that I just put it in that little glass vial inside there and keep adding water to it, and it will change right away. And especially if you don't let things go down really low, and you just add water as you go, you don't have to wait 8 hours for the
Yeah.
water to change. You're just keep adding a little bit all the time. And I do recommend filtered or distilled water. I get a lot of questions about structured water, and this is a structured water. There's a lot of different routines out there for structuring water, so I'm not going to spend any time on that. But I want to share some information that this woman sent me from the Russian websites that she was getting information from, and it's just awesome. So what they say is the human body is composed of various GANs. The body is filled with GANs, and every substance entering the body is transformed into a GAN state. Now, we keep saying GANs, and GANs is gas in the atomic nanosolid state. And so, using plasma technologies, doctors in Russia treat various health disorders by creating conditions for energy transfer. This is achieved through the use of static and dynamic plasma systems. These systems are fed by various GANs to create the conditions for energy transfer. It is necessary to understand how to create such conditions and how it affects the human bodies. Doctors and scientists working with plasma technologies have repeatedly demonstrated how this can be achieved. They succeeded in and this, all right, so this just goes on and on and on, and I won't read it all because it is in a blog on my website. And I just think it's great information because it all sounds so mysterious because that hasn't been part of our American wheelhouse of health as in until the last few years when we've started making the plasma energies available to others. And one of the things we did, and we laugh about it when Paula and I were doing videos, and we'd say, well, you can make your container of GANs. And okay, now let's say this is my mother source jar. Now I can pour some into a vial and give that vial to someone else. It is going to have the same strength as what's in here, and that will have the same strength as what's in here. So it does not diminish as it's moved on to others. And one thing that's very, very important is intention. I remember early on when I was working with a group and 5 or 6 people had ordered the GANs, and we were on a phone call, and everybody was sharing with how things were working for them. And one of the guys wasn't there, and something came up, and they said, oh, well, Gus doesn't believe in it. Well, it didn't work so well for Gus because water carries memory and water carries intention. So Gus programmed his water. Well, you don't work very well. So I mentioned that because we're creator beings, and we're really powerful with intention. And unfortunately, that isn't something that we're taught. So, Sean, I see you as somebody who works with great intention. And what happens with you is you just get busier and busier.
Yeah, well, but the thing of it is that that really does play into the whole factor because plasma energy technically is a mindful and intelligent energy field in itself with some of the systems that we work with. And when you're dealing with plasma energy, in the form of storms and tornadoes, and there's a lot of stories over the years, Lynn, that we've talked about where, you're setting up these plasma vials in a perimeter around, your yard or your property, and then these big storms and a lot of this stuff kind of moves around that. Well, that's actually really based on physics of what these energy fields are about. And the other thing I was just going to touch on, the pads, that was one of the very first videos I ever saw with you, was the pads, and you were spraying the plasma energy water on the pads and then hanging up and drying those, and the amount of energy coming off those when you started dousing. I remember you took just a tiny little piece. It was tiny. The pads are larger, they're folded up, and they have the exact same amount of energy as the vials do. So whether it's the vials or whether it's the pads, you're still getting the exact amount of energy that's transferable. But when you were using the dowsing and it was like 30 feet away and you moved over, and that energy field coming off that little tiny piece that was clear across the room, you immediately hit right onto that. And it was really very significant to show how these fields of energy work and how powerful they actually are.
Exactly, Sean. And when we first did that, we were surprised because, well, we shouldn't have been, but you know, we started out with the 16 vial package that we had at the time, and it measured over 30 feet in energy fields. And then I took the pair of pads, and the pads are about that size. Okay. It was the same distance. And then I had some little pads that were about the size of a post-it note. It was the same distance. So size did not matter. And knowing that, Paul finally got down to where he would use fabric band-aids and spray the gauze part of them. He wouldn't peel he'd leave the sticky part covered and just peel it back enough to spray the gauze with something because he had arthritic knees. And then after that, all he did was take that plasma energy combination and he put two fabric band-aids on the front of his knee and one on the back. And so the plasma energy was moving through the knee to balance the smaller amount of energy on the back with the larger amount of energy on the front. And he would just wear those until they fell off, and then he'd put on other ones. And it reduced the pain that he had. And this wasn't a candidate for knee replacement because he had a kind of a crooked knee. Well, maybe, I don't know, but that was not his choice. He just said, I will take care of it here at home. So that was, a really interesting thing that we found just with size doesn't matter. And, you mentioned having your water bottles there with the different GANs on them. And some of you may go, well, if there's healthy man on there and I'm a woman, do I want to be drinking that water? Well, your body's only going to pick and choose what it wants to use. So it's going to ignore some things. And by the same token, Sean would be looking at it and going, well, do I want to be drinking healthy woman? And so you just let your body pick and choose. It's like going to a buffet, and you're not going to eat everything on the buffet when you go out to a fancy buffet, but you're going to pick and choose. Body does the
Right.
same.
The body only takes the frequencies that it needs.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And they can change, you know,
Hmm.
during the day or the next day, maybe you need something different. So one of the things I wanted to share today, though, was the woman that I've referred to because she had she works as a caregiver, and the one of the women she was helping was suffering from leg issues with sores all over her legs. She had bad circulation and just a lot of um, unhealthy balance in her body. And so what happened is the the caregiver was spraying the copper oxide GANs on the sores. And she was doing that because she said they'd been using zinc oxide for months and months and months, the cream and that kind of thing and other things. And the legs just weren't healing. And then she had ordered a group of energies. And I think there was diabetes involved because she ordered healthy pancreas, healthy gut, several other things, and made a combination of the waters and gave that to this individual to drink. Well, within a month, the sores were all healed up. And then what she had also done, and it's on my website in a blog, what she had also done was taken her blood pressure, and the blood pressure, she did add healthy heart. The blood pressure improved. And so she has the tracking of that. And it's a little hard to read. It was done in pencil, but you still can make it out. So that was really great.
Yeah.
To get that information. And I think I've got this is what it looks like when you go to the website. You can see it's pretty faint, but um, this is just a black and white copy, and the website copy is a little better than this. Um, so, and then what she had also shared with me is that she had found her hair and nails were getting much better, much stronger, and her hair was getting thicker. And then super sleep was helping. And I had someone else who I had sent some super sleep to, and their feedback was, oh my gosh, my wife loves it. She is getting good quality sleep and wakes up in the morning with energy. Well, that's awesome when that happens for people. So those are a couple of examples. But then the other thing, Sean, I was going to share with you is we've got some new things. And when you said you've got, I don't know how many things I've sent your way, but we probably have at least 6 dozen combinations. And people will ask me, well, what should I order? Well, I'm not a medical individual, and I don't diagnose and I don't treat. So what I tell people to do is go to the products page and scroll through it and see what resonates with you. Because if you want to just call and get on a 15-minute conversation, well, tell me what to order. There may be something you don't mention that would have been very helpful. So that's why I say just go through it. And, Sean, you and I have done a couple of great, what I call Cliff Notes
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah, we have.
And I really find those useful for, bringing people up to speed. Look, take the time to look at these because we talked about a lot of the products. So,
And the other thing that's really good about that is that you get into real detail about what all the extra energies are that you've put into those vials, right? So
right.
you can really see how there's like a real thought process, and you're using, herbs and different types of, all different types of elements that are going in there to create that additional frequency that goes then into the water. So the other thing too is that for me, because this is how it worked for me, it was like I put together a wish list. So when I first started, I think I got three of them. And then a month or two later, I got like three more. And if you look at the vials, because we've got, the 5 gallon jugs here, you're going to see that we've got like 4 or 5 taped. We've got 2 water dispensers in the building, and each one of them, when you open them up and we change out the bottles, we have them all scotch taped on the side there. So you can put multiple frequencies in the water as well. So like with me, I think I started with 3, but eventually, now we've got different combos at different parts of the building. But you can infuse the water with as many different energies as you like.
Right. I have one of my plasma energy water containers, and I call it my whole enchilada. because really the only thing I haven't put on there is for cats, for dogs, for plants, but otherwise it's loaded, and it's just my go-to because my body can sort out daily what I need. And Sean, I'll mention this here. I am 82 years old now. I have not been to doctors since, well, I stopped in the 90s, but that was my thing. I just decided at that point I needed to take care of me. And I don't take any medications. I use the plasma energy water. Now I have some knees that don't want to act like they're in their 20s. So I do get some outside help with a chiropractic adjustment. But all in all, I have plenty of energy, and I'm just, I'm still doing videos, I'm still doing blogs, I'm still doing new combinations. And I thought I'd tell you about some of the combinations. Um, we have one that's called allergy, infection, and inflammation buster. And that one, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll look at what we have as existing energies. And then sometimes I'll put a new combination together and go, if we put this and this, and then I might add something new, and I might create another GANs and add them all together to address what's going on with allergies, infections, and inflammation. So that's one that I have. And generally, I will send out a sheet that has quite a bit of information, and it'll tell you how to set up your mother source jar. Now, this is one that fell out. Oh, this is on the first aid vials. And so when I said the copper oxide was what the woman was using, that was an individual vial in this group of what we call the first aid vials.
Lynn,
And
real quick,
uh-huh.
that's what I love about each one of these products. When you get it, you get the full description of everything that's in it. Those pages that you're showing are what actually come with every single order. So you know exactly what's in it. You've got directions. It's really well done.
Thank you. And Sean, I will qualify. Sometimes I say, and there are more ingredients, because if I listed them all, there might be several hundred.
Wow.
So and some of it's what I would call proprietary, but now this is one for, let's see. Okay, that went with the first one. Now there's another one that I just came out with, and this took me about, I started in March and I didn't finish it until last month. And the thing that happened, it would have been done sooner, but I kept running across things that would make it even better. So then I'd slow down the whole completion process. But it's called Biofilm Buster Plus. And what biofilm is, the easiest way to explain it is what forms on your teeth over bacteria to protect the bacteria from being destroyed by your body, because they're there to destroy your teeth. And so a biofilm is created, and that's how the bacteria can break down the teeth. And so you might call the biofilm like when you have to go in and have your teeth cleaned because of the buildup. And so biofilm in your body, what science is finding out is if there has been something foreign placed in a medicine, food, air, water, injections, whatever, that ends up in our bodies, that may come with a with DNA instructions for the body to make a biofilm to protect that thing from being recognized as a foreign object that we don't want in our bodies. And so what Biofilm Buster Plus does is it's got energies that are going to help to stop that formation of that protective energy over something we don't want in our bodies. So that's what Biofilm Buster Plus is. And so I go into some of the ingredients on it and then give you some of the instructions on how to set it up and use it. And then another one we have, oh, harmony support for home and work. And I think a lot of people are in need of a little harmony in their lives. And I had one that I made that I called Meanness Buster Plus. And I don't remember if I told you about this one, Sean, but a teacher was having a really hard, difficult time with her students. They were mean to each other. They were mean to her. They were just really hateful. And these were elementary students. And I really thought about what would make them like that. But they had put up some really large cell towers right by the school. And the reading I've done is that that energy can instill feelings of anger in people if they're around too much of it. So I put something together for her and I just said, spray it around the classroom when nobody's there and just, you know, put your intention with it. Well, I got a text several weeks later and she said, thank you. This has made such a difference. So there you go. It's energy fields. And somebody that does gets a lot of plasma energy said, well, gosh, maybe it ought to have a nicer name. And I said, well, in this case, it was meanness, being we needed to bust that up. But I did take that same combination and name it joy and kindness. So
Awesome. Well, Lynn, that brings up also a really good point on how you use plasma energy water. Now, obviously, you're going to drink plasma energy water with your tea, water, coffee. The second thing is you touched on earlier, spraying it on Band-Aids. There's a lot of them for soreness, pain, arthritis. But here's the great part that's also really nice. You can spray it on your socks if you have a sore ankle. It's going to keep into your socks and you can spray it in your clothes. I remember one of the videos I've done that's still on this channel is me pouring the plasma energy water in the spin cycle when I'm washing my clothes, letting it soak there for a little bit, and then literally taking the spray bottle like you've got and then spraying it on the carpet, spraying it on the couch. Because once that plasma energy gets into that fabric, it's going to infuse the fabric with that energy. And so you're creating these fields literally within the bedroom on the mattress, like you're literally sleeping with that and then putting it on your clothing. So there's so many different ways that you can incorporate this plasma energy water into your lifestyle. And, we're talking about a few of those, but putting it on fabrics, clothing, different things where you can apply it directly to a shoulder or a sore spot. Those are a lot of popular ways that can be done.
exactly. And I've sprayed this all around my house and I've I don't get flying insects. Now, this is the time of year that they're going to come in. I did a video last fall. It was pretty funny. And I said, well, it's the time of year they're going to come in, and I'm going to probably see 4 or 5 flies. I don't even have a fly swatter. And they'll usually, if I ever see them again, they're at the back door waiting to be let out. Well, as I'm talking on this video, a fly lands on my face, and I'm like, I guess this fly wanted to be a star today.
Yeah, perfect. Like it took its cameo appearance.
Yeah, it really was. But I also have a combination for my plants that I have on my deck, and
Hmm.
I have super soil, sea essentials, and natural pest away, and it's all combined in one container of what I call my plant water, and that's what I water the plants with. Well, Sean, for the last 2 years, I have not even changed the soil in the planters. I just use the new water and put that on them, and they do great. So
Which
there's
one
a
is
lot of
that?
people that go through a lot of things with their gardens and everything, and
Yeah.
if we just apply the water, um,
Which plasma water were you using?
I was using something that we call it's called Healthy Garden or Garden Essentials
Okay.
on the website.
Okay.
And there's three of them, and one is Sea Essentials, one is Super Soil, and one is Natural Pest Away. And I just put all three of those into a large jug, and that's what I water with. Well, I still get little bees that come in to the plants, but I'm not getting wasps. I don't get mosquitoes. I don't get flies. So it's really pleasant to go be out on the deck in the summer around the plants and not be doing this.
Yeah, and one of the best testimonials, I had a family out of Texas that bought a lot of plasma energy water, and she did get the mosquito repellent one, which we were talking about initially on the call, and she said I absolutely couldn't believe it. And that was the same lady, I believe, that also she created the GANs, and she had that friend of hers that was recovering from chemo who was super weak, and she gave some water to her when she came over, and the lady got such an energy boost from it that she came back and asked for more water the next day. She came back literally just to get the water. And I know we've had a lot of them, with we talked earlier about putting it out and creating that energy field around your property, but it's also good for repelling negative energy, not just storms and weather, but also negative energy in the form of perhaps humans or other things that are kind of in the environment, pests, animals that you don't run around perhaps, but there's just so many applications to this. I mean,
There
um,
really are. And, if you go back to my 2022 blogs, I did one in June of 2022 because we had what they call the 1,000-year flood here. And we have this little creek that goes through town. There were enormous boulders that had been crashing down out of the mountains south of town for hours. And it finally blocked up a bridge, and then we had water flooding down the streets. Well, I'm 2 blocks away from the creek, and the water started coming down the street a half a block between from my house over to the creek. And I kept watching all afternoon because my kids had said, Mom, we got to, you got to get out of there. And I, no, guys, I think I'm going to be fine. Well, we need to get your stuff out of the lower level storage. In We don't need to be hauling soggy stuff out of it. Okay, I'll go along. That's a good idea. So they did do that. But what happened is, even though the lot next door to me and the driveway and the window that would have let the water into a basement level was below the street level where all the flood was going, it never came across. We never had flooding where I live. And my son, in I have a Denver son, and he looked at the videos, the drone video, and he said, Mom, I've watched that several times, and it should have come down your alley. It should have come across the end of your driveway, and it didn't. And it was at the house right behind us.
didn't get
Just,
to the UPS's guy house either.
oh yeah. And so then later, this was about a week later, and I have a favorite UPS driver, and I said, well, did you do okay with the flood? And he said, oh yeah, I don't even live here. But he said, my rental house did okay. And I said, oh, I did, where's your rental house? And he said, well, it's a block away. And 3 of the neighbors' basements got flooded and my house didn't. And I said, well, why do you think that was? And he said, well, the plasma water, of course, you gave me some and I gave it to the people who gave some to the people who live there. Well, that was, something I totally didn't know about. So I'm going, thank you for that.
Yeah,
So,
that's really a great story. I always, Lynn, uh, I love hearing the cat story. You had the one cat that was kind of had behavioral issues. It was kind of, maybe shy and whatever. And you used the peace. Was it the peace one that you used?
I used anxiety relief for her.
Anxiety relief.
Yeah, and here's the thing, the cat water dishes have a lot of vials in them. And then they hijacked two fountains that I have. So those fountains have a lot of vials in them. So anywhere they drink water, they're getting this. And I have one cat that's kind of mischievous and feisty and everything, and it didn't affect her at all. But the one who had such anxiety, she'd been dumped off in a snowstorm, and I maybe she was had a feral mother. I don't know, but she was just generally the door open and she'd run for cover. And she is much better now. She'll come out and investigate, who's here. And the only one that she really runs from is the woman who comes to help me a couple times a month. And she knows the vacuum cleaner is going to come out. I have never vacuumed the cats, but they
Yeah.
all run for cover.
Yeah. Well, the cat has made many cameo appearances over the years that me, you, and Stephanie, when we were doing the calls, she would just pop into the screen and be like walking across. So I wouldn't doubt that at any minute we're talking about her. She's perking up saying, let me go see what mom's up to. And she jumps up to
Right.
say hello.
Right.
You brought up earlier about how you changed up the formula a little bit for the mosquito repellent.
Right. Now, mosquito repellent is still the same way that it is, but what happened, Sean, is some people in Florida contacted me and they said our mosquito relief isn't working like it has in the past years, but we think we have some genetically modified mosquitoes here that have been released this year. And so I thought about it. I said, okay, add new tech frequency relief to it and um, add peace to it. And the reason for the new tech frequency relief was in case they had somewhat of an electronic element added to them. And so that combination worked. And they said, thank you for letting us know that because, um, it took care of the issue. And I don't know if you've seen them. There's a woman in Arizona who has a big water bottle and it's a big just a plastic water bottle. And she filled it she's had one hanging in her swimming pool for a couple of years and just with a couple of energies like peace or something. Well, her daughters came to visit and they said, well, Mom, what if we add all the energies that you have to that bottle? Because then when we're in the pool, we'll be touched by all those energies. What happened is now there's all these energy patterns that will form on top of the water when nobody's in the pool. And
Super
it's just,
cool.
she sent me some pictures of it and it's really interesting. And that's in one of the blogs. It'll refer to swimming pool energy. So um, I was going to
So
go
that
ahead.
that order that you sent out for me overnighted,
Mhm.
that's all going to Nigeria, right?
Right.
And that's
Some of it
going
was
to a
in South Sudan.
major health conference. So the lady that's the keynote speaker, that's like part of the whole group that's organizing that event, she saw the plasma energy water and she's like, Sean, I need that for this event. And so all those plasma vials are literally right now flying to Nigeria. And her goal is to get the energies in the waters, and they're going to hand it out to all the dignitaries and diplomats and all the doctors and everybody that are coming to the conference and introduce the plasma energy
Wow.
water at that conference, which is, I believe, a 4-day event. I'm actually one of the guest speakers on there. I'll be doing my speaking remotely, obviously, but that is going to be a very big deal. And that's very exciting. And thank you so much for getting that out on short notice.
Yeah, I was really scrambling because I'm not in a city and the UPS truck comes here and then leaves at 4:30. So I had a short window of getting everything done.
Sure.
But like I said earlier in the call, I did end up sending some extra things to her. Um, when I realized what was going on. So and one of those was Parasite Buster Plus, and I'll talk about that in a minute. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the eye. I'm hearing a lot of people with eye issues. Excuse me. And when people have had cataract surgery, Paul did not ever recommend putting the drops right in your eye. Now, I've had people who have said, well, what if I drink the water and maybe just, put something on my eyelids? That's probably going to be okay. But Dr. Brian Artis did some very interesting articles on cataracts, and I would encourage people to go look for those. There was part one and part two, and they're very informative, and it just make your own decisions about what you're going to do in that situation. So the eye formula is one that I see a lot of people using right now. And then um, I have heavenly protection. And that was one again, I just thought, we're sometimes surrounded by some energies we'd rather not have in our lives and rather not be surrounded with. And so again, it was a combining some things together along with intention of just, we can put up a protection in our energy field because our energy fields go out quite a few feet from from our bodies. And it's almost like if you're mindful about it, you can be like in a protective container. And I always laugh at people here who roll their eyes about, oh, whatever that stuff is that she does, that plasma stuff, and they kind of poo-poo it. And I think, well, you know what you don't realize is when you're standing next to me or sitting next to me, I've got fields full of plasma energy that are probably bumping into your energy fields.
Sure.
So,
100%.
and then
Um,
I go ahead,
Go
Sean.
ahead. Not, I just was going to circle back with a quick comment. The biofilm that you're talking about, that biofilm breaker, the other place where biofilm sits is in your intestines. And parasites hide in that biofilm. That biofilm actually prevents parasites from being removed. Like they're protected by the biofilm, not just, with the bacteria in the teeth, but also in there. So that biofilm one technically is also, I would recommend that as also having benefits for parasite removal.
Correct. And and I did Parasite Buster Plus first. And so Parasite Buster Plus, the way it's different from the original Parasite formula is the addition of the energies of ivermectin and fenbendazole and some other energies. So I think that's quite an important one for us to be using. And there are some very interesting podcasts out there. Dr. Lee Merritt talks a lot about the parasites and the whole thing with what you're talking about, the protective sacs around the parasite eggs and how she's addressing them. And there is some discussion as to whether cancer tumors are biofilm encoded parasite egg sacs. So if that interests you, I'd suggest going out and taking a look at that. I'm just reporting on it. All right. And now another one I have that's recent, Sean, is liver and radiation cleanse. And again, our livers are very important for our overall well-being. And so this was a combination of energies, but also it's going to be, we've got a lot of radiation going on around us. And that's why you always see me wearing, a smaller one or a larger one of this. And what is it? It's shungite. The black in this pendant is shungite that comes from Shunga in Karelia, Russia, which is near the Finland border. It's the only place that you can get it. And what's on here too is you see the shiny black stones.
Mhm.
That's elite shungite. And I've put the elite shungite stones, well, Paul started doing it in our water filters because the Russian research was it it helps purify the water. And the shungite does a good job. The elite shungite, if the shungite does say a 65% job, the elite shungite does a 98% job. So what I found is my water filters last a long time because I've got the addition of and I just put the little rocks right in there in the compartment where the filters are. I have the big stainless steel um, water filters, and I have a couple different brands that I've set up that we've had for years. So that's really just an important addition you can do, and you can find these online, but make sure you get Carelia, Karelia, because I think there could be some shiny fakes out there.
To
Sad but
know. Yeah, very good to know.
true.
So,
And
Lynn, this has been a great call. It's great to catching up with you. I think that, the best thing for people watching the video is to go to Lynn's website, and it's plasmaenergysolution.com. Now, on there, you can look at the different varieties. And Lynn, I know the last time I was with you, you were at about 70, maybe 75. I don't know if we have a total, but that just gives you an idea that there's a lot to choose from. And as you said earlier, the best thing to do is just use your intuition, right?
yeah,
And just go through them and just get the feel and say, wow, that's a great one. And kind of like what I did, put together a list and then a sub list and a like, this is my first order, this will be my second order. And in many cases, you've had people like kind of team up and say, hey, get a couple friends together, they buy a couple, you buy a couple, and then you can kind of share everything together. And so that's another way of going about it. But if you go in there and you use the code USA MedBed at checkout,
yep,
you will get a very sweet 15% discount, which is very generous. There are going to be some specials that won't apply necessarily to any special offers, but for the general purpose of purchasing these, you do get a pretty good sized discount, and they're really
yeah,
not that expensive either. I mean, they start at maybe 20, 30, $40. They can get up there depending on the amount of energies and the amount of things that have been put into it, but it's a one-time purchase. It's going to last the rest of your life. And once you charge that mother station that you're working with, you can give out vials to friends and family and sort of share the love.
exactly. And Sean, if there's a better discount than the 15%, please put in the comments that you heard about it from USA MedBed. I would appreciate knowing that, and I'm sure Sean would like to know that too. And I know we need to kind of wrap up, but I thought I'd share something that Paul and I did with our Peace, and this happens to be my Peace spray bottle. I have this handy in case the cats get into a scrap, and I just spray it at them. End of
Yeah,
scrap. So, our intention and invitation, all plasma energy that originated from Paul and Lynn's efforts joins every other bit of plasma energy that originated from their efforts, wherever that plasma energy is in the world, on the land, in the waters of the rivers, lakes, and oceans, in the air, and in the clouds above. All that plasma energy bring Paul and Lynn's intention everywhere on, above, around, and below the surface of planet Earth, that all living beings are filled with love, peace, joy, freedom, prosperity, and well being, with the ethics and morality to support the love, peace, joy, freedom, prosperity, and well being of all living beings on planet Earth, including the living being, our home, planet Earth. All of like intentions are invited to join this intention.
really beautiful, really beautiful. And Lord knows the world needs more of that right now. So just spreading that love and that compassion at a time like this couldn't be more timely.
Exactly. And, Sean, a lot of times I end my podcasts with saying, there are people around you that you say that you love. Look them in the eye, tell them you love them, and mean it. Dr. Paul and I got to do that for 54 years. And I won't be goody two shoes and tell you that we liked each other every single day, but we stuck to that main theme. We love each other. And that's a gift you can give to those around you, along with a smile. And that didn't cost you anything to do it.
True. And you know what? It comes back because the more love you give out, the more you get back, and it's reciprocal. And, sometimes people just need to hear that. Sometimes they just need to get back to the core basics and just know that as an individual and as a person, I love you. And, the more you say that, I think the better it feels internally because when it's all said and done, that's the only thing you take with you, is the love and the compassion that you shared and gave to others. So, being more free and handing that out and giving out that gift is not only good for the world, it's good for us too.
Exactly.
I love
Exactly.
it. Well, Lynn, I love you. How's that? You're
Well, I
awesome.
love you too, Sean. Thank you.
Yes. And you have to say hello to Stephanie.
I will do that.
I hope everything with her is good. Is she still in Minnesota?
She is, but she's spending more time over in about 3 hours away from me because her daughter had a little boy.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm actually a great grandmother. So now Steph has a lot of motivation to spend more time in Montana, and she's working on figuring that out and figuring out her whole family situation on how to do that.
Sir, that's awesome. Life is so good, when there's nothing I love more than going into those states of gratitude where I'm just like, I'm so grateful right now for us, our conversation. I'm so grateful that we've got, plasma energy water for people to make the world better and just, having a good place to sit down and do our podcast and spend time together. That feeling of being grateful. And once again, you definitely got to say hi to her for me. That's so exciting when you got new little people in the picture and things are changing, and that's what makes the world go around. So I'm very happy to hear that for her.
Thank you, Sean. I'll pass that on to her.
Please do. Well, Lynn, we'll catch up again soon. Once again, if anybody's listening to the podcast and you want to go look at this amazing plasma energy water, which I've been basically gifted and able to use now for well over 3 years that me and Lynn have been doing this together, you can go to the plasmaenergysolution.com, check it out, USA MedBed. And Lynn, the other thing that you've got, which is really phenomenal, a massive amount of video and data and more information. So if you want to get more
Yes.
information, boy, you could sit there for days on end and watching these really phenomenal educational videos, which is how I got started. Because I remember when I started, somebody said, "Have you ever heard of plasma energy water?" I said, "No, but God, does that sound cool? I got to check that out." And then, of course, I went in and figured out the science of it and Dr. Keshe and Alda Walt. There was a lot of people that were familiar with, charging water with energy. And then you learn a lot about water, which you were talking about earlier, where you can put intention into it and literally change the molecular structure of water with your thoughts. And then the fact that it can store and hold energy and memory. I mean, it's really just like we think we know the stuff around us. And then when you start getting into this, you learn so much about something as simple as water that we've been around, but how mystical the properties of that are and how you can use that substance to literally bring wellness into your body. So, really amazing stuff. A lot of great information. Lynn, I'll let you go, but we'll definitely catch up again soon. Have yourself a great weekend, and thanks a lot for your time today. And stay with me because after I click off here, I'll hang out with you for a minute.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you and all that you do. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.